When Eugene Collins built the first stable wormhole in history, shattering every law of physics the arrogant Malin held sacred, the alien scientists reacted with a mix of disbelief, outrage, fascination, and an overwhelming need to destroy the human before he obliterated the very foundations of their smug, self-important society. Dr. Collins, Earth's most brilliant theoretical physicist and chief science officer of the United Nations starship Carl Sagan, knew the Milan would be a tough crowd when he arrived on their homeworld as part of the first human diplomatic mission. But he didn't expect the sheer disdain that radiated from Izar, the Milan's lead scientist, as the vaguely amphibian humanoid greeted the human delegation. "Welcome, Earthlings," Izar said, his lipless mouth barely moving. "We are honored to host your kind, as primitive as you are. We Milan have manipulated gravity, bent space-time, and harnessed the power of black holes while your species was still playing with fire. But please do try to keep up." Eugene bristled but kept a polite smile. "Thank you for the warm welcome, Dr. Izar. We primitive humans are quick studies. I look forward to seeing your scientific advances firsthand." "You misunderstand, Dr. Collins," Izar said. "We will not be giving you a tour. We will be testing you to see if humanity has anything of value to offer the Milan. And we start now." Izar led Eugene to an impossibly sleek lab overlooking a roiling sea of dark energy. "Your first challenge: construct a stable wormhole, a bridge through space-time. We Malin have attempted it for decades, but perhaps a human can accomplish what we could not." Izar's black eyes glittered with amusement as giggles rippled through the assembled Malin scientists. Eugene felt anger flare in his chest, but he pushed it down. So much depended on this, not just his own reputation, but the future of human-Milan relations. If he failed, humanity would be dismissed, laughed out of the galactic community before they'd even fully joined it. "I accept your challenge," Eugene said firmly. "And when I build that wormhole, I trust humanity will have earned your respect." "We shall see," Izar smirked. "You have 3 cycles. I would wish you luck, but we both know luck is unscientific human nonsense." As the wormhole generator whirred to life, space-time twisting around him, Eugene took a calming breath. Humanity's fate hung in the balance. Failure was not an option. As the wormhole generator hummed to a stop, the swirling vortex stabilizing into a shimmering portal, Eugene stepped back and took in his handiwork. He had done it. Despite the challenges, he had proven the Milan wrong and created a stable bridge through space-time. The Malin scientists stared in stunned silence, their amphibian features slack with shock. Then, a slow clap began, growing into a roar of applause. Eugene basked in the acknowledgement, his heart swelling with pride for himself and his species. But not everyone was celebrating. Izar's face contorted with barely contained rage, his fists clenched at his sides. He stormed out of the lab, pushing past the throng of congratulatory Malin. In the days that followed, Eugene's achievement sent shockwaves through Milan society. The news feeds buzzed with coverage of the human scientist who had single-handedly upended centuries of Milan's scientific doctrine. Some Milan, like the young prodigy Talon, eagerly sought out Eugene, hungry to learn from his revolutionary methods. "Dr. Collins, I've studied your work on subspace field theory," Talon said, his eyes wide with admiration. "But I never imagined it could be applied like this. You've opened up a whole new realm of possibilities." Eugene smiled, happy to have found a kindred spirit among the Malone. "Thank you, Talon. I'd be honored to collaborate with you. Together, we could push the boundaries of what's possible." But others, led by Izar, viewed Eugene as a threat to their way of life. They whispered in the halls of power, lobbying the Malon leadership to put the human in his place. Under immense pressure, Izar publicly challenged Eugene to a second trial, this time to create a revolutionary energy source beyond anything the Milan had achieved. "You may have gotten lucky with your wormhole, human," Izar sneered. "But energy is the lifeblood of our civilization. You'll never surpass us in that domain." Eugene, however, saw an opportunity. As he pored over the schematics of Malin zero-point energy reactors, he noticed critical flaws and limitations, environmental consequences the Malin had long overlooked. Drawing inspiration from the elegant energy cycles found in Earth's ecosystems, Eugene envisioned a radical new approach, one that harnessed the power of quantum entanglement. As he worked tirelessly in his lab, refining his designs, Eugene faced a growing storm of hostility from Izar's faction. Equipment malfunctioned, data was erased, and he received anonymous threats urging him to abandon his work and leave Malone. One night, as Eugene burned the midnight oil, a group of hooded figures broke into his lab, smashing equipment and scrawling, "Return to your doomed world, human," on the walls. Eugene barely escaped unscathed. Realizing he needed an ally, Eugene turned to Talon, the only Malin who had shown him genuine support. Talon, disgusted by his people's treatment of Eugene, agreed to help, providing insider knowledge of Malin systems to bolster security and keep Eugene's work confidential. In the long hours spent working together, a friendship blossomed between the human and Malin scientists, bonding over their shared passion for discovery and progress. But their partnership was short-lived. Izar, tipped off about Talon's involvement, set a trap. As Talon worked late one night in Eugene's lab, an explosion rocked the building, destroying crucial prototype components. Izar spun the narrative, painting Talon as a clumsy, incompetent fool who had nearly killed them all with his carelessness around volatile materials. Eugene could only watch helplessly as security dragged Talon away in cuffs, cut off from any contact. Now alone, facing the greatest scientific challenge of his life, Eugene pushed himself to the brink of exhaustion. He subsisted on stimulants and sheer willpower, every waking moment spent in pursuit of the quantum entanglement breakthrough that would prove the Malon wrong and save Talon from a traitor's fate. Finally, after weeks of toil, Eugene saw the matrix dedication, the equations balancing in perfect harmony to unleash an energy output that staggered even him. He had unlocked power on a scale beyond either human or Malon imagining. As the day of the final trial loomed, Eugene became aware that Izar's team was rushing to implement a rival design, a crude, brute force system that Eugene dismissed as lacking in both elegance and vision, but that threatened to beat him to the finish line. Hundreds of Malin dignitaries gathered in the Great Hall, eager to see which species would prove themselves the true masters of energy. Eugene stood beside his creation, exhausted but proud. "Behold," he proclaimed, "a revolution in clean, sustainable power. Using the principles of quantum entanglement, we can transform our civilization and explore the stars as never before." As he demonstrated his device, the audience erupted in shocked exultation, the implications sinking in. The Malon leadership turned to Izar expectantly for a counter-demonstration, but he could only splutter, hurling vague accusations. In the end, the Malin leadership had no choice but to declare Eugene the victor, hailing humanity as their equals on the intergalactic stage. But the story didn't end there. An investigation into the lab accident revealed the truth of Izar's sabotage and Talon's innocence. Izar was stripped of his titles and led away in disgrace, while Talon was released and showered with apologies. As Eugene prepared for his triumphant return to Earth, the Malon grappled with the seismic cultural changes his arrival had wrought. And unseen, a new danger gathered on the horizon, an alien race watching humanity's ascent with cold, calculating eyes, planning their response to the upstart species challenging the old galactic order. Eugene Collins wiped sweat from his brow as he stared out the viewport of the battered Malin scout ship. The unfamiliar stars of Kyleran space glittered coldly around them. "We're approaching the outer defense perimeter," Talon said, his amphibian features tense as he piloted the craft. "If the intel is correct, we should be hailed any moment now." As if on cue, the comm system crackled to life. A harsh, guttural voice barked out in an unfamiliar language. "Universal Translator's working on it," Eugene muttered, fingers flying across the control panel. "There, got it. Unidentified vessel, you have entered restricted Kyleran space. State your purpose or be destroyed. Eugene leaned towards the comm. This is Dr. Eugene Collins of Earth and Talon of Milan. We come seeking an audience with Kyleran leadership on a matter of utmost galactic importance. Silence stretched for long moments. Eugene's heart pounded. Then, proceed to these coordinates. Any deviation will result in immediate termination. The journey to the Kyleran homeworld was tense. Eugene and Talon exchanged worried glances as their ship was escorted by sleek, predatory Kyleran vessels that looked ready to open fire at the slightest provocation. When they finally touched down on a stark landing pad, they were immediately surrounded by towering, insectoid Kyleran soldiers. Eugene fought to keep his face neutral as he took in their alien features: multiple compound eyes, chitinous exoskeletons, and wickedly sharp mandibles. "Follow!" one of the soldiers buzzed, gesturing with a clawed appendage. They were led through winding corridors of a material that seemed to shift and flow like liquid metal. Eventually, they entered a vast chamber where several Kylerans waited on raised platforms. "You trespass in our space, outsiders," the central figure hissed. "Speak quickly before we lose our patience." Eugene stepped forward, spreading his hands. "Esteemed leaders of Kylara, I come bearing vital information. A grave threat approaches. The Xerian Empire seeks to conquer all in their path. We need your help to stop them." Angry clicking filled the chamber. "You bring your petty conflicts to our door? We have no interest in the squabbles of lesser races." "Please," Eugene pressed on. "The Xerions will not stop with us. Your isolation will not protect you forever. But together, we can—" "Enough!" The lead Kyleran's mandibles clacked furiously. "You seek to steal our secrets under the guise of alliance. We will not be deceived." Eugene's mind raced. He had one chance to turn this around. "Then let me prove our intentions. I offer to share my own scientific breakthroughs, including a revolutionary energy source that could transform your civilization. In exchange, I ask only for knowledge to help defend against the Xerians." The Kylarans conferred in hushed clicks and whistles. Finally, the leader turned back to Eugene. "Your offer is intriguing, but insufficient. If you truly wish to prove yourself, you will face our challenge. Construct for us a device capable of manipulating the fundamental forces of the universe, a feat we have long sought. Succeed, and we will consider your proposal. Fail, and you will not leave this world alive." Eugene's breath caught in his throat. It was an almost impossible task, but also their only chance. "I accept your challenge," he said firmly. The Kylerans provided Eugene and his team with a bare-bones laboratory. As they worked feverishly, Eugene pored over fragments of Kyleran scientific texts, searching for clues. "Look at this," he said to Talon one night, pointing to a faded diagram. "It hints at a unified theory, but crucial pieces are missing." Talon's eyes widened. The great Kyleran data archives might hold the answer, but they're strictly off-limits to outsiders. Eugene's heart made. Then we'll have to find a way in. When Eugene proposed scanning the archives to the Kyleran leaders, their reaction was swift and furious. "You dare?" the lead Kyleran roared. "This is the highest form of transgression." Eugene and his team barely escaped with their lives, retreating to their lab as alarms blared throughout the complex. "We have no choice," Eugene told his team grimly. "We need that data. Tonight, we break into the archives." Under cover of darkness, they slipped through the twisting corridors of the Kyleran citadel. Eugene's heart raced as they approached the heavily guarded archive entrance. "Now," he whispered. They sprang into action, deploying countermeasures to bypass the security systems. For a moment it seemed they might succeed. Then alarms shrieked to life. "Go!" Talon shouted, shoving Eugene towards the archive entrance. "I'll hold them off!" Talon, no. But his friend was already engaging the guards, buying precious seconds. Choking back tears, Eugene sprinted into the archives. His fingers flew across the alien interface, downloading as much data as he could before the sound of fighting grew closer. With a final anguished look back, Eugene fled with the stolen data, the sounds of Talon's capture ringing in his ears. Back in the lab, Eugene threw himself into his work with manic intensity. The loss of Talon drove him to new heights of commitment. He would not let his friend's sacrifice be in vain. But obstacles mounted. Kylo hardliners, furious at the archive breach, sabotaged his equipment. The looming threat of the approaching Zirion armada added crushing pressure. Eugene worked through it all, decoding the stolen data bit by bit. Slowly, agonizingly, the pieces began to fall into place. As the first Zirion ships appeared at the edge of the system, Eugene made his final adjustments to the device. It was now or never. He activated the machine, praying it would work. A low hum filled the air, building to a crescendo. Energy crackled and arced between the device's components. Eugene held his breath. The fate of civilizations hung in the balance. Either he had changed the course of galactic history or doomed them all. The Zirion armada darkened the sky above the Kylo homeworld, a vast swarm of sleek, deadly vessels descending like locusts. Eugene Collins stared at the view screen, his face etched with exhaustion and fear. Alarms blared throughout the facility as Kylo defense systems roared to life. "Dr. Collins!" A frantic Kylo technician burst into the lab. "The Zirions have breached our outer defenses. We need to evacuate." Eugene shook his head, fingers flying across the control panel of his device. "No time. If we don't stop them here, it's over for all of us." The floor shook as explosions rocked the city. Through the windows, Eugene glimpsed Kylo fighters engaging the Zirion ships in desperate aerial combat. A stray energy blast struck a nearby building, showering the lab with debris. As Eugene worked, a priority transmission cut through the chaos. His blood ran cold as he saw Talon, battered and bound, being dragged before a tribunal of hardline Kylo leaders. For the crime of aiding alien spies, the traitor Talon is sentenced to immediate execution, the lead Kylo intoned. "No!" Eugene cried out, but it was too late. He watched helplessly as his friend was cut down, Talon's final defiant gaze seeming to lock onto Eugene through the screen. Choking back a sob, Eugene threw himself into his work with renewed fervor. The lab rocked with another impact, ceiling panels crashing down around him. Sparks erupted from damaged equipment. Come on," Eugene muttered, rerouting power from his quantum entanglement reactor. The device hummed to life, energy crackling between its components. Outside, the sounds of battle grew closer. Eugene heard the distinctive whine of Zirion energy weapons, punctuated by the screams of the dying. A small group of Malin warriors burst into the lab, taking up defensive positions. "We'll buy you as much time as we can, human," their leader shouted over the din. "Make it count." Eugene nodded grimly, making final adjustments as the Malans exchanged fire with unseen attackers. One by one, the loyal aliens fell. Their leader, mortally wounded, crawled to Eugene's side. "Save our people," the Malin gasped, gripping Eugene's arm. "No matter, the cost." With a final rattling breath, the alien went limp. Tears streaming down his face, Eugene activated the device. Reality itself seemed to warp and twist around him as forces beyond human comprehension were unleashed. A blinding vortex of energy erupted from the machine, tearing through the facility and beyond. Eugene felt his body being torn apart at the atomic level, the price of wielding such awesome power. His last thoughts were of Earth, of Talon, of all those who had sacrificed so much to reach this moment. The vortex expanded outward, engulfing the Zirion armada. Ships disintegrated in an instant, reduced to their component atoms. On the planet's surface, invading ground forces were vaporized mid-stride. When the maelstrom of energy finally dissipated, an eerie silence fell over the devastated Kylo capital. The few surviving Kylorans and Malans emerged from shelter, gazing in awe at the transformed landscape. Where Eugene's lab had stood, nothing remained but a smoking crater. But high above, the skies were clear of Zirion ships for the first time in days. Slowly, the realization dawned that they had been saved, though at a terrible cost.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.